Recently, you must have seen in the news that US inflation has now risen to 7.5%. It is the highest it has been in 40 years since 1982. So in this video, we'll try to understand what is inflation, how it affects the economy, how does the government control inflation, and what effect does it have on your lifestyle, investments, and overall standard of living. Alright then, let's begin. Inflation simply means price rise or increase in the prices of commodities. When inflation rises, the value of the currency goes down, or you can say the cost of living gets higher. When prices of goods and services in an economy increase, now why does the price of goods and services increase? It is because of the increase in demand. When demand increases and supply is low, consumers are willing to pay more for a commodity. And that is how the cost of goods and services increases in an economy. Now, why does supply decrease? There could be many reasons. A simple example would be, suppose if there is a drought, then naturally the supply of agricultural products will decrease. So there are many reasons why supply decreases. Some of them are low manpower, lack of adequate transportation, unavailability of raw materials, high production cost, and many more like that. Anyhow, the main point is, when the cost of goods and services increases in an economy, that automatically triggers a consumer to go on a savings mode. It is very simple. When you know prices have increased and your income has not, which means the value of your currency has decreased. Because now you have to pay more money to get the same amount of goods which you previously got for less amount. So naturally, you will spend less on things that you don't need. You will save money as much as you can. Now, if everyone reduces their spending, that will trigger another problem. How will the economy sustain or expand? So it is always recommended that a certain level of inflation is required in the economy to ensure that consumer expenditure is promoted and holding money through savings is demotivated. So now that you have understood what is inflation and how it affects the economy, now the next question is, what do you do about it? There are two ways a country's economy is controlled. One is using fiscal policy and the other one is monetary policy. Fiscal policy is used by government's finance department or ministry. In India, it is the finance ministry, and in the United States, it is the Department of Treasury. Under the fiscal policy, there are two main tools, that is taxes and spending. The government has the right to collect taxes, and any changes in tax policy will have some noticeable changes. Similarly, the money collected through tax is used by the government in supporting various welfare schemes, relief packages, defense, pension, government salaries, food subsidy, interest payments, health, and there are many such areas. Now coming to monetary policy. Monetary policy is used by the central bank of a country. In India, it is the Reserve Bank of India, and in the United States, it is the Federal Reserve. The main tools of monetary policy are open market operations, which means buying and selling of government securities, then interest rates. In India, we have cash reserve ratio, statutory liquidity ratio, bank rate, repo rate, and reverse repo rate. So the central bank uses these tools to control the flow of money into the market, and that is how the central bank controls the inflation and liquidity in the economy. That means to control inflation, the United States Federal Reserve will make use of the monetary policy. So what they will do is, they're going to tighten the monetary policy by raising the interest rates. So what happens if the Federal Reserve raises the interest rates? If interest rates are high, that will discourage people and businesses to borrow money from banks. Because due to high interest rates, loans will become more expensive, and you don't want to pay a high rate of interest on your borrowed money. So what you will do is, you will postpone your project that involves financing. It could be a house loan, vehicle loan, study loan, etc. If you pay attention, indirectly the government is discouraging people and businesses not to borrow money by increasing the interest rates. Rather, the government is signaling people to save money to earn higher interest payments. Now this reduces the supply of money in circulation. And then that will cause earnings to fall, economic activities to reduce, and eventually prices of the commodity will drop. The market will automatically adjust the price according to everyone's buying capacity. The main idea behind the central bank's decision of increasing the interest rates is to control the flow of money into the market, so that the economy is not too hot or not too cold, but just right. Always remember, when central bank increases interest rates, it will affect stock and bond markets, credit cards, personal loans, student loans, auto loans, and business loans. So what effect does inflation have on your lifestyle, investments and overall standard of living? Now, if you are someone who belongs to the working class, then what you need to keep in mind is that if your salary does not increase, that means you have less buying power now than a year ago due to an increase in inflation. Since the US inflation has now risen to 7.5%, that means ideally your salary should have also raised by 7.5% or more annually, so that you compensate for your lost money. Similarly, if your bank is not giving you a savings interest rate of 7.5% or more, even then you have lost money to inflation. Let's say you invest in stock market, and if at all your overall investment or portfolio did not yield a 7.5% return or higher, you have still lost money to inflation. As I've already said, inflation means price rise. That means consumers like you and me are going to feel the pinch in our everyday routines. Price of some essential commodities like food, fuel, housing, electricity will rise more. Look, you have to understand this. I'll try to explain this in a very simple manner. Suppose there are 5 things that are running a country's economy. I'm just asking you to assume 5 things so that it's easier to understand. These 5 things are healthcare, construction, retail, automobile, hospitality. Just for understanding purpose, let's assume that these 5 industries are currently running the economy of an XYZ country. As you know, for the last 2 years due to the pandemic, people have lost their jobs, salary has not increased, many are working on less salaries, and then there are many traveling restrictions. Now, if you look at these 5 industries, because of the pandemic, the hospitality industry has suffered because people did not travel due to government restrictions. Similarly, health industry, retail sector were doing good because you still buy your groceries and essential items. You even bought medicines to keep yourself showing up at work. Construction and automobile industries suffered. Not everyone had enough money to buy a new car or construct a house. So what I'm trying to say is that in the last 2 years, many industries and sectors have badly suffered and many were unaffected. The ones that have suffered have also contributed significantly to the unemployment rate. So in this situation, the government will have 2 jobs. One, it wants to keep inflation under control by using monetary policy. And the other one is to maximize employment. A high inflation rate has a direct relation with a high unemployment rate, because rising prices can easily become a major threat to the labor market. So in an economy, we cannot focus on few sectors or industries. Every sector and industry has to perform. That's what leads to a country's economic growth. In your personal life, you can choose to live minimally, because the more things you acquire, it will lead to more maintenance. So in your personal life, you can design it in such a way that you get rid of unnecessary things. But when it is about the whole economy, there are so many sectors and industries that exist which are giving livelihood to millions of people. Getting rid of them is not an option. Government has to make some arrangements like increasing government spending on infrastructures and schemes so that the economy keeps moving. Right now it is a test for the government. On one hand, they have to keep the interest rates high. On the other hand, they also have to pump in money through infrastructure spending so that the economy keeps moving. And hopefully with the increase in interest rates, government spending, drop in travel restrictions and other forms of interventions, by the end of this year, economy will revive. I hope you found this video informative. Thank you for watching it.